श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम् ॐ सुखं नित्यं स्वप्रकाशं व्यापकं नामरूपयोः अधिष्ठानं बुद्ध्यबोध्यं बुद्धेर्दृग्यत्तु निर्मलम् अपारं सर्ववेदान्त वेद्यं प्रत्यक्परं महः तदेवाहं नप्तोऽन्यत् इति मे निश्चिता मतिः. So yesterday, the disciple asked Mithya Jagataha Adhara Adhisthana Vashayaka Prashna. The question regarding the Adhara and Adhisthana of the illusory creation. Generally speaking, I've said this in SVS and other classes also. Generally saying, people always confuse these two words as synonyms. Adhara, Adhisthana. Adhara and Adhisthana are not synonyms. That is why I didn't explain too many things. I just said substratum over. I just said substratum for both. Now we are going to delve deep into it and understand what they mean. So, and yesterday he said for the illusory creation, Atma alone is the substratum, not the rope, not anything else. It is the self alone. So he is going to explain the same thing in the next topic also. So we'll again see that there. 162. Atmanaha samanya rupam adharaha vishesha rupam adhisthana. Then what is adhara and what is adhisthana? What is adhara and what is adhisthana? So he says the general form of the self is adhara. The specific form of the self is adhisthana. The general form of something is called as adhara and the specific form of something is called as adhisthana. That's all. General adhara, specific adhisthana. Now, what does that mean? So normally I use words base and substratum. For adhara, I say base, and for adhisthana, I say substratum. Okay, now atra idam akutam. This is what is said regarding this. Rajjoho swarupadvayam asti. For a rope, for any object, there are two parts, two forms. There are two forms. Ekam samanya rupam param vishesha rupam iti cha. One is a general form, the second is special form. General form and special form. What is that? Tatra iyam iti samanya rupam rajjuruti vishesha rupam. This we have seen, the general form and vishesha form we have seen. This is not the first time you are hearing this. We have heard this in Drigdrishya Veka. In Drigdrishya Veka, we saw there are two forms for any object. One is this, the other is rope. One is this and the other is whatever the object. So that is what it says. Iyam iti samanya rupam rajjuriti vishesha rupam. This is the general form and rope is the special form. Okay. Ayam sarpa iti bhranti dashayam. So what happens when you have the erroneous knowledge of this is snake instead of the right knowledge this is silver? So he says, iti bhranti dashayam, in this erroneous knowledge, mithya bhuta sarpena tadatmyapannam sadbhasamanam ayam iti yat swarupam tat samanya. When you, instead of understanding this is rope, when you understand it as this is snake, so there are two parts. One is this and the other is rope. Instead of rope, you confuse it with the snake and you identify it with snake. So instead of having the rope knowledge, you completely replace it with snake knowledge. So what happens is I am this, I am means this. This is, instead of rope, you understand it as snake. So that this in this is rope and this is snake is common. That is samanya rupa. Samanya means common, general. So what is general in both this is snake and this is rope? The right knowledge and wrong knowledge, this. So therefore we call it general. That is adhara. Okay. Now, भ्रांति दशायां यद स्वरूपम न भासते यस्य स्वरूपस्य साक्षात्कार मात्रेण ब्रह्मः निवर्तते तदेव रज्जोर विशेषः. So during the erroneous knowledge, during the period of erroneous knowledge, the real knowledge, the real object is not shining. You are not perceiving the real object. And only through the knowledge of which real object this erroneous knowledge gets relieved, that is called as Vishesha. That is called as special knowledge, specific knowledge. So there are two knowledges. One is general knowledge and specific knowledge. General knowledge is they're both in the right knowledge and the wrong knowledge, whereas specific knowledge is only there in the right knowledge, which knowledge relieves the wrong knowledge. That is the specific knowledge. Whichever knowledge removes the wrong knowledge, that is what is called a specific knowledge. So general knowledge, general and specific, two parts. Okay. So I simplify it even more. I say general adhara. Adhara means a state where there is no superimposition. When you talk about something where there is no superimposition, that is adhara, the pure state. Adhisthana is the state where there is superimposition. Instead of rope, you see it as snake. There is superimposition. Instead of this, you see it as this. Therefore, there is no superimposition. Instead of this, you don't change it. You see it as this again. So there is no superimposition. That is adhara. Where you replace it, where there is another knowledge, that is adhisthana. Where there is a possibility of superimposition, that is adhisthana. Okay. So adhara and adhisthana. एवं एव आत्मनोपि एकसामान्य रूपम अपरम विशेष रूपमिति रूपद्वयमस्ति. See, we have seen in a general form with respect to the world. There is this and there is rope, and there is this and there is snake. This is the general knowledge which is common for both rope and snake. Snake or rope. Rope is the specific knowledge which removes the erroneous knowledge of snake. That is a special knowledge. Okay. Now, with respect, see, that is example. What is the exemplified? The self. In the self also, there are two knowledges. One is the general knowledge, the other is specific knowledge. So he says, Tatra sadrupam samanya rupam asangatva kutastatva nityatva shuddhatva muktatva adi visheshrupam. See, only when you have the special knowledge, you will get rid of the erroneous knowledge. If you have the general knowledge, the erroneous knowledge is not removed. We all have that the self exists. We have that knowledge. That knowledge did not remove our ignorance. So, like we know this. Oh, what is this? Something this. Something this. So, when you have the specific knowledge that this is, then that whatever erroneous knowledge gets removed. So here also, self, that knowledge does not remove the erroneous knowledge. So what removes? So he says that is general knowledge. Sad Rupam, the existence. That is general knowledge. And Asangatva, Kutastatva, Nityatva, Shuddhatva, Muktatva, Buddhatva, ityadi. So the self, what is self? Self is unassociated. Self is eternal. Self is liberated. Self is the substract, changeless, kutastha, changeless. Self is pure. These knowledges, this is specific knowledge of the self with regards to the self. It doesn't fit anywhere. It can fit only the self. But Atma also does not fit anywhere. Atma also fits only for self. If you think, that is a wrong knowledge. Because Atma is a word which can mean anything, anywhere. My Atma is not well. That means your body is not well. My Atma is today very disturbed. My mind is very disturbed. My Atma broke, meaning my slipper broke. It can also be that. Atma can mean anything. It's all contextual. That is the biggest problem with respect to the Vedantic teaching, the Upanishad teaching. Where do you interpret Atma's what? That's the challenge. So he says Atma is general. That is why Atma is general form. But the specific form, this, when I say eternal, it will not fit bill with anything. Eternal, only self is eternal. It cannot be anything else. Liberated, ever liberated, it cannot be anything else. It is only the self. So these non-associated, unassociated, these attributes or these nature, inherent nature, they are attributes, they are inherent nature. So this inherent nature does not fit anywhere except the self. So only through the knowledge of that specific quality, inherent nature, you can get rid of the ignorance. So he says, Tathahi. स्थूल सूक्ष्म शरीर संघातो अस्ति इति कार्यकरण संघात भ्रांति दशायां मिथ्याभूत कार्यकरण संघाताद अभिन्नतया सद्रूप प्रकाशते. When you say, oh, there is this body sense organ complex, there is this gross subtle association, etc., when you say, what happens is that you, instead of associating the I with the self, you associate the I with the body sense organ complex. So he says there, with body sense organ complex also, the I shines. I am, instead of I am self, I am 6 feet, I am this, I am that, etc. So ata eva sadrupamatmanah samanirumiti. That is why we say the existence nature, that is the general form of the self. Okay. कार्यग्रहण संघात भ्रम समये आत्मनो असंगत्व कूटस्थत्व नित्यत्व शुद्धत्व मुक्तत्व आदि स्वरूपम न प्रतिभाति. During this kind of erroneous knowledge, when you are associated with the body sense organ complex, the inherent nature of the self, which is ever liberated, ever eternal, ever pure, ever unassociated, etc., these don't shine. These knowledges don't shine. You don't know this. So Atmano asangatvadi surupena bhanetu shariradi sangata brahmo nishesham navrte. But when you understand the self to be unassociated, etc., then the attachment with the body sense organ complex is completely removed. Because body sense organ complex means the idea itself is associated. Body sense organ association. So all the associations are completely removed. तस्मा therefore असंगत्व कूटस्थत्व नित्यत्व शुद्धत्व मुक्तत्वादि मुक्तत्व अद्वितीयत्व व्यापकत्वादि व्यापकत्वादिकम आत्मनो विशेष रूपम. Therefore असंगत्व, unassociated state of unassociation. Okay. कूटस्थत्व, changeless, transformationless. नित्यत्व, eternal. Shuddhatva, pure. Muktatva, ever liberated. Advitiyatva, non-dual. Vyapakatva, pervasive. All these are the specific knowledge of the self. Okay? Now, समस्त भ्रमेषु सामान्य स्वरूपम आधारः इति विशेष रूपम अधिष्ठानमिति च उच्यते. So in all the erroneous knowledge, in the place of the erroneous knowledge, in any erroneous knowledge, the general is a adhara and the special is a adhisthana. Okay. मिथ्या सर्पाश्रय भूत रज्जोः इयम् इति सामान्य रूपं सर्पस्य आधारः रज्जुरिति विशेष रूपम् अधिष्ठानं च इति यथा भवति तथा मिथ्या प्रपञ्चश्रयभूत आत्मनः सामान्यात्मक सद्रूपं प्रपञ्चस्य आधारः असंगत्वाद्वितीयत्वादि विशेष रूपम् अधिष्ठानं च भवति. So he is repeating the same idea. He says, when you see the erroneous knowledge of snake, this is the general knowledge, and the rope is the adhisthana. Rope is the substratum for the superimposition. That is the specific knowledge. And with respect to the self, when you identify the body sense organ complex, this is the general knowledge, and the not the body sense knowledge. The state of the self being non-associated, etc., is the specific knowledge. So the general knowledge is always there. The specific knowledge differs. Only through the specific knowledge of the substratum you can get rid of the superimposition. Okay, ayam cha vibhagah adhara adhisthanayoho. How do you know this? How do you know? But I've seen so many people confusing with this adhara and adhisthana. They use it as synonyms. So he is raising the doubt. Where do you know that this is the difference between adhara and adhisthana? So he says, ayam cha vibhaga, this differentiation between adhara and adhisthana is shown in Srimad Shankara Bhagat Padacharya Prashishya Bhuta Sarvagyat Munindrena Sankshepa Shariraka Akhya Granthe Pradashita, in the text called Sankshepa Shariraka, which is written by Sarvagyatma Muni, who is a disciple of Shankaracharya, Bhagavan Bhashyakara. So he has mentioned this difference in his text. 163. Mithya jagatah atmano anyah drashta vaktavyeti prashna. So he says, okay, now we know what adhara and adhisthana is. There is no doubt regarding that. Now the doubt regarding something else. It's a very interesting question actually. Who is the one who perceives? Who is the perceiver? It says, Mithya jagatah atmano anyah drashta vaktav. You have to say someone other than the self to be the seer of the illusory world, the non-real world. Why? The disciple explains his doubt. Hey Swamin, hey Shri Sadguru, O Lord, O Sadguru, ko vasya mithya bhuta jagatah drashta bhavet. Who is the seer of this illusory world? Why? नहीं अस्य मिथ्या जगतः आधार अधिष्ठान उभयात्मक आत्मा एव द्रष्टा भवितुमर्हति. For this illusory world, neither the adhara nor the adhisthana self, meaning neither the general self existence nor the specific self of a liberated etc. cannot be the seer. The specific self cannot be seer because you have already said it is unassociated. It cannot be seer. The general self is there with the right knowledge and the wrong knowledge. Therefore, it cannot also be seer. If it's a seer, it should say, oh, no, you should not come here. It should say it doesn't do it. So, who is that? So, he says, Tatha nahi asya mithya jagatah adhara adhisthano drashta Tatha adrishtatva, because that is not perceived to be so. It can be substratum or the base, the adhara or the adhisthana cannot be the seer because it is not perceived to be so. Tasma, therefore, sarva jagatah adhara adhisthana bhavena sthitatvat atmanah tad anyena eva kenachit tad drashta bhavyam. So, since the self is the adhara and adhisthana, the base and the substratum for the illusory creation, therefore, there should be something else which is the seer of that. See, self remains as the base or substratum, base and substratum for the illusion. Self remains as the base and substratum for the illusion. Therefore, the self cannot see. You should have to imagine some other seer. You have to accept some other seer. There is no other way. The substratum cannot be the seer also. So you have to, if you accept the self to be substratum and the base for the illusion, then you have to accept another seer. Sarpadi adhara adhisthana bhuta rajvadehe anya eva tadrashta purusho yatha bhavati tattva. Why? Okay, I'll explain. You only brought the rope snake, right? Okay. So the rope, which is the substratum and base for the snake, this is rope, which is the substratum for the knowledge, that erroneous knowledge that this is snake, is not the seer. You and I are the seer. Similarly, here also the substratum and base cannot be the seer. You should have to accept some other seer. को वा अस्ति जगतः अस्य द्रष्टा प्रत्यगात्मनो अन्यः इति शिष्यः पृच्छति. Therefore, fine. There should be some other seer, right? But who is the seer? Who can be the seer other than the self? Because there is nothing other than the self. That is what you keep repeating again and again. Now, who is that seer who sees the erroneous world? First, his question was regarding the superimposition. Where did this erroneous knowledge come from? It cannot be from the shop. It cannot be from inside your mind, which is projected outside. It cannot be non-existent. All these ideas, different khyatis ideas are demolished. We said it is inexplicable. Now he forgot about that. Okay, I accept the rope snake to be inexplicable. But who sees that inexplicability? Who sees that? So he says, Tatra Samadhanam 164. The answer to this doubt, valid doubt this is. Loke yad yad mithya vastu tat sarvam swadhishthane kalpitam bhavati. First thing you have to understand this. Whatever is the illusory knowledge, whatever is superimposition, they are all superimposed in its substratum. They are all superimposed in its substratum. Okay, this we know. Okay, right. Adhishtanam cha dvidam. This substratum is of two types. The substratum is of two types. Every form of an object is of two types. One is general form and the specific form. Now he says, general form is a adhara. Specific form is adhisthana. General form is base. Specific form is substratum. Now he says, the substratum also is of two types. The substratum is also of two types. What are they? Ekam chetanatmakam aparam jadatmakam iti. One is a conscious nature, the other is inert nature. One is of conscious nature, the other is of inert nature. For what? The substratum. Substratum is of two types. Adhisthana is of two types. One is a consciousness, the other is inert nature. Yatra adhishtanam jadam iti angikriyate. Why are we discussing about this? Now comes the important explanation. Where the substratum is accepted to be inert, tatra adhishtanadanyaiva drashta. There you have to accept another seer for that substratum, for that superimposition. If the substratum is inert, then you have to accept another conscious seer for that superimposition. Rope is inert. You superimpose a snake. So who superimposes? Not the rope. You have to see the individual, a jiva, to be the seer. Now it is inert. Fine. What about the conscious nature self? So he says, Yatra chetanam adhishtanam tatra swasmin aropitasya sarvasya adhishtanam eva drashtuhu annanyat. So when the consciousness is the substratum, then whatever is superimposed on it, it doesn't depend upon anything else for being a seer. It sees it itself. Whatever is superimposed is perceived by the consciousness itself. Yatha, like Swapna. How can this be so? How can this is a contradiction actually. Subject-object relationship, they say. Here there is subject-object contradiction. The self is the subject, the self is the object. How can you accept that? The self can either be subject or object. Self cannot be both subject and object. So he says, no, it is possible. How? Beautiful example. This is what is the blessing. I say dream is a blessing. So he says, Swapna prapanchasya adhishtanam sakshi chaitanyam tadeva tadrashtu cha bhavati. What is the substratum for the dream world? Inside yourself. So who sees the dream? I, the self. So I, the self, is the substratum for the dream world, and I, the self, is the seer of the dream world. It's possible. एवमेव अस्य जाग्रज्जगतोः अपि आत्मैव अधिष्ठानं स एव तस्य दृष्टा. Similarly, so in the waking world also, during the waking period also, the self is the substratum and the self is the seer. Self is the substratum as well as the seer. In the dream, I don't expect some other person to look at my dream. I see the dream. And where is the dream superimposed? In me. So the dream is superimposed in me and I am the perceiver of that dream. Therefore, the same thing can be accepted in the other place also. Mandadhikari samadhanartham stula drishtya rajvadikam. See, I explained earlier also, the explanation given here, first and the second, two kinds of explanation gave. This explanation is with regard to the people who are dull, immature. But for a good adhikari, good sadhaka, the second one, which is the Vedantic Siddhanta, should be accepted, I said. So what is that first one? What is the second one? He's bringing it again. Manda adhikari samadhanartham sthula drishtya rajvadikam sarpadi adhyasa adhishtanam iti ashritya etadrisha shanka samadhani krute. We have explained all this accepting a dull seeker for the dull seeker's sake, that the illusory for the illusory snake, etc., the rope is the substratum, and that is where it is dependent upon. That is what we said. Rope is the substratum for the superimposition snake. Rope is the substratum for the superimposition snake. That is what we keep hearing again and again. That is not real. Rope is not the substratum for the snake. Then what is the substratum for the snake? Mother of pearl? No, there is no similarity. Therefore, it cannot be. Then what is that? So he says, Paramarthatah, in reality, to Advaita Siddhante, Sarpadi Adhyasa Adhishtanam Sakshi Chaitanyameva Drashtuja Tadeva. In reality, the absolute self is the substratum and the seer of the superimposition. In reality, the substratum and the seer for the superimposition is the self. Tasma, therefore, this we discussed already. Tasmat kalpita sakala drishya andako drishya andakoti sahasranam adhisthana bhuta atmaiva drashta na asmin pakshe shanka samadhanadikam prasajyate iti gururah. Therefore, for the whole entire creation, Sakala Drishya Andakoti Sahasranam, not one universe, multiple universe, for all the different universes, the substratum is Atma alone and the seer is Atma alone. When you accept this, there is no possibility of any doubt. Okay. Because when you accept the rope as the substratum, see, who is the seer and who is the substratum? That is the question. When you accept the rope as the substratum, then the self as the seer. In the world, that is okay. But for the world itself, in the world, the rope can be substratum and the self can be seer. But for the world, which is superimposed, the self is the substratum and the self is the seer, is contradictory. That is why we have to say, in the case of inert, you accept the substratum to be the rope and the seer to be self. In the case of the superimposition of world, then the self is the substratum and the self is the seer. This is with respect to this is an answer with respect to a dull seeker. But for the intelligent seeker, for the real seeker, this is not the answer. For him, the answer is everywhere the substratum is the self. Sakshi Chaitanya. We saw this yesterday. The substratum is a Sakshi Chaitanya. So that is what he says. In this situation, we don't have to differentiate with respect to rope or with respect to the world. With respect to rope also Sakshi Chaitanya. With respect to this world also Sakshi Chaitanya is the substratum. There is no doubt. Okay. Now 165. Mithya samsara nivartana ichha na uchita. Now he is okay. Fine. The substratum is the self and the seer is the self. Okay. Did you understand? Yes. Then if you understood, then there is no text further. Over. You understood, right? So he says, no. There is a problem here. What is the problem? Very smart question this is. For this samsara, the illusory samsara, why do we study the Vedanta? We study Vedanta to get rid of the samsara. He says, we will not, there is no possibility of having the desire to get rid of the samsara. Nivartana ichha na uchita. The desire for getting rid of the samsara is not right. Why? Disciple says, hey, the Guru says, hey Soumya, dear, Itham mithya bhuta samsara dukkham bhrantya tvai pratibhasate. This way, this illusory samsara and its pain, bhrantya tvai pratibhasate, as illusion, as an erroneous knowledge, it is perceived by you. It is not real. The erroneous knowledge of the samsara is perceived by you. Therefore, tasmat mithya samsara dukkha nivritsa tavana yujyate. Since it is a erroneous knowledge, who desires to get rid of erroneous knowledge? That too illusory, after knowing that it is illusory. See, until you didn't know that it is illusory, you will have the desire for getting rid of it. Now, we have made it clear that it is a superimposition on the substratum, which is yourself. Where can be the desire? After knowing that it is a mirage water, will you try to dismiss it? No. After knowing that there is only rope, there is no snake, will you try to shoo it away? No. Once you know it for clear, then there is no desire possible. So he says, Tatrayam Drishtanta. This is the example. What is the example? The example that you cannot have the desire to get rid of the samsara and the sorrow of samsara. Example. Yadi kaschana mantrikaha kasmaichit purushaya swamantra prabhavat mithyabhutam shatrum pradarshayati. Some magician, he through his magical skills, mantra prabhava means to the power of mantra. Here is the magical skills. He displays an enemy in front of this person, in front of you. He displays an enemy, your enemy in front of you. He shows, oh, see, your enemy. What will you do? Take out this one. Because you see the enemy, you have to kill him. Right? But he says, Tada tachatru vinashaya nasa purusho yuvetate. But this person does not, because he is seeing the magician creating magically this enemy. Therefore, this fellow will not put forth any effort to kill that enemy. He'll just look at that. He'll be enjoying it. In fact, he'll be enjoying the enemy. He says, Tadvat mithya bhuta samsara nivarteta ichhana yujyate. Similarly, to get rid of the illusory samsara, the erroneous knowledge samsara, the desire is not proper. Tatha cha uktam Gaudapadaihi Mandukya Upanishad Karikayam. Mandukya Upanishad is one Upanishad. It's a very small, short and sweet Upanishad, 12 mantras, that's all. And the whole Vedanta is brought in that mantras, those mantras, 12, 16 mantras. So, it's such a beautiful mantra, the Upanishad. We say, Mandukyam ekameva alam mumukshunam avimuktaye. For a seeker to realize, Mandukya Upanishad alone is enough. For a seeker to be liberated, Mandukya Upanishad itself is enough. And when I was explaining this during one of the classes in Panchadashi, this fellow who had come from south, who is listening to the Panchadashi. Panchadashi is a beginner test. Okay. He said, Guruji, I want to listen to Mandukya Upanishad. I said, you have to wait for that. There's an order. No, you don't have to do it for me. You do it for yourself. I'll listen to it. If I am going to do it for myself, why will I shout? I'll just read it in my mind. No, you please do that. I will just listen to it and I said, people always want to be teacher, guru. So one fellow came. So you are a guru, acharya, right? Yes. How long does it take? First, I studied Laghu Siddhanta. It took 1.5 hours. Then I studied this, that I'll enlisted. And we say, okay, 8 hours, 8 years, 5 years, 10 years. This fellow says, 5 years, 10 years? What should he do? Okay, I'll wait for 5 years. I study all that. No, he said, I'll come after 5 years. So he wants to be directly the guru. That is what the problem of people is. They don't want to put forth any effort. Mandukya is enough only for a seeker who understands the basic. If you have not even studied LKG and UKG, the kindergarten, what will you understand when you are put in a PhD? You are given a PhD seat. Will you be able to complete it? How many years will it take for you to complete the PhD? Now, if it is the same with a guy who went through schooling and college and all that, and he is given a seat, will there be a difference or not? That is what we are talking about. In order. So, whatever, and you don't have to worry about, Mandukya Upanishad. Don't keep notes on it because you don't need. Whatever you are hearing here, they are all, the teaching is not watered. Without diluting the teaching, I am giving the same teaching as said in Mandukya Upanishad. Okay, so he says Mandukya, in Mandukya, what? See, there is Mandukya Upanishad, and the Upanishad has Karika. Karika means couplets, which is explaining that, and there is Bhashya, commentary on that Karika. Gaudapada Acharya, or Bhagavan Bhashyakara's grand guru, he wrote the Karika, and Bhagavan Bhashyakara, to show his respects to his great guru, he commented upon it. Now, there he says, Prapancho yadi vidyeta nivarteta na samshaya. This is one gist of the mantra, and when you hear it, you will understand this is what you have been studying. Listen. Prapancho yadi vidyeta nivarteta na samshayah maya matram idam dvaitam advaitam paramarthatah prapanchah yadi vidyeta. If the world, if the creation exists, if it existed, then nivarteta na samshaya, you should have to get rid of it. No doubt. It should be gotten rid of. There is no doubt. But maya matram idam dvaitam. The duality is illusory, non-real. So, where is the desire possible for getting rid of that illusory creation? Advaitam paramarthatha. In reality, non-duality is the truth. In reality, non-duality is the truth. Okay? Iti tatha Varaha Upanishadi choktam. In Varaha Upanishad, another Upanishad, which is unheard of Upanishad, it's a small Upanishad. It is said, Ajnanam eva na kuto jagatah prasangah जीवेश देशिक विकल्पकथाति दूरे एकांत निर्मल चिदेकरसस्वरूपं ब्रह्मैव केवलमहं परिपूर्णमस्मि. Just what does it say? Ajnanameva na. Ignorance itself does not exist. Kuto jagatah prasangah. When ignorance itself does not exist, where is the question of the creation? The creation is the effect of ignorance. When ignorance itself does not exist, where is the question of creation? Now, when the creation itself does not exist, Jiva, Isha, Deshika, Vikalpa, Katha, Ati Dure. You can forget it from far off, the story regarding the Jiva, the individual self, Ishvara, the God, Deshika, the Guru, all these stories. You can forget it from afar. Because the cause itself is not there. From the cause, there should be another effect. This is the third stage of effect. The second stage does not exist. The first stage does not exist. How can the third stage be existing? So he says, then what is the truth? Ekanta nirmala chideka rasa swarupam brahmaiva kevalam aham paripurnam asmi. I am that absolute self. There is no duality here. One who is a pure, one who is knowledge, one who is of the form of non-dual self. So that I am. 166. Therefore, there is the idea here is there is no possibility of any desire to get rid of the samsara. No. 166. Mithya samsarasyapi dukkha hetutvad tannivrutti upaya prashnaha. But wait. There is no possibility of desire for getting rid of the samsara? No. But there is. How? The disciples is asking the question. He says, Mithya samsarasyapi, though I understand the magician displayed his magical skill and created an enemy, so I should not be worried about that. I understand that. But still, even the illusory creation, Mithya jagat samsarasyapi, though the samsara may be illusory, still, dukkha hetutvat, it is cause for sorrow. Though it is illusory, it is cause for sorrow, real sorrow. So, therefore, nivrityu tan nivrityu upaya prashna. There is quite the doubt or the question regarding removal of that is quite possible. The samsara may be illusory, but the effect is real. The effect of pain is real. Therefore, doubt regarding the removal of that samsara is quite possible. Is logical. So he says, Hey Swamin, oh Lord. This is what disciple asks. Hey Swamin, Lord, Jagat Toi Mithya eva swapnadivat pratibhati nacha asti tat paramartha sadrupena iti yeduktam tat satyameva. What you said is true. What did he say? That the self, the creation which is superimposed in you erroneously, like the dream, and it does not really exist. In reality, you alone, who is of the nature of existence, are. There is nothing else. What you said is true. That's happy. But still, once you say what you said is true and you say but, you are cutting the whole statement, whatever I said, whatever you said. So that is what the disciple says. You said that, but what? He says, तथापि यथा मयि मिथ्यारूपेण वा रूपान्तरेण वा स जननमरणादिरूपः संसारो न प्रतिभासेत तथा उपयः कृपया उपदिश्यतां मह्यम्. See, okay, I'll ask. I don't care whether it is illusory or real. I don't care whether it is illusory or real, whichever form it is. I want you to help me to get rid of it. That's all. If it is real, it is real. Tell me the means to get rid of it. If it is illusory, fine. Tell me the means to get rid of it. That's all I want to know. Tatha upayah kripaya upadesha. Please tell me a means through your grace. मिथ्याभूत संसार निवर्तये साधन अन्वेषणं तव युज्यते तव युज्यते इति भवदुक्तम्. यद्यपि सत्यमेव तथापि यस्य मिथ्यापदार्थो दुःखहेतुर्भवति तेन स मिथ्यापदार्थः तन्निवृत्ति साधनैः निवर्तिने एव भवति. See, you said for the samsara which is illusory, for the samsara, for something which is illusory, searching for a means is not logical. It's not right. If it is illusory, if it is not real, what means can you find out? There can be no real means to get rid of the illusory thing. So he says, what you said is true, but still this is causing me pain. So therefore, please teach me a means to get rid of this illusory creation. Okay. Tatahi. How does it become cause for sorrow? He says, Tatahi. Kasyachit, he is giving an example. Kasyachit pratidinam bhayankar dukkha pradarshanam jayate. Dusswapna darshanam jayate. See, someone has this dream every day, a very bad dream, every day, a nightmare. Okay. Such a mithya bhutasya. Is it real, the dream? No, dream is not real. So he says, such a mithya bhutasya pitasya swapnasya nivartiye japa pada prakshalanadi aneka upayan anutishtati. So, though he knows dream is not real, he is troubled by it. Every night that nightmare comes and he is troubled by that. So, he puts forth effort to get rid of it by doing japa or by washing his feet, etc. We do different. They have this stupid this hanging thing called dream catcher. So we resort to these kind of stupid things, though we know that is stupid and this is stupid. But if it gets rid of one stupidity, if it gets rid of another stupidity, fine. What is the problem? So tatha cha, therefore tatha mithya bhutopyayam samsarah janmadi dukkha hetutvena me pratibhati atah tannivrittanam ichchami. So they similarly, though this creation is illusory, still it is causing me pain. Therefore, trying to find a solution for this is proper. You said to me that trying to find a solution for an erroneous knowledge or for an illusory thing is useless. That is true, but it causes me pain, like the dream. So, like we get rid of the bad dream, similarly, this bad dream, this problem, I should have to get rid of. Therefore, the desire for getting rid of is logical. Tasmat tannivritti upayam kripaya vadabhoho iti shishya prashna. Therefore, please teach me, please instruct me in a means to get rid of this pain. Meaning, to get rid of this illusory creation, to get rid of this illusory samsara. That is the doubt of the disciple. From Avarta 167 to 168, Guroho Uttaram, the Guru answers, Hey Shishya, O dear disciple, Jagatrupa dukkhasya atyanta nivartaye prishta upaya prageva nirupitaha. What does the Guru say? Guru should say, oh, this is the means you have to follow. No, he does not say that. He starts with saying, I have already said you what is the means for this. It's already told. Shraddha Bhakti Purassaram Tatra Dridha Nischaya Kriyatam. Whatever means I said, show some Shraddha and Bhakti. So show that surrender to the teaching and devotion to the teaching. And go back, visit it. Dridha Nischaya and make a steadfastness in that. Make your knowledge be established steadfastly in that. Tataha jagadrupa dukkham anumatramapi tvayi na drishyata. Then what happens? Thereafter, even an iota of sorrow caused by this jagat cannot be there in you. Hey Soumya dear, Advitiya asanga chinmatra rupa swatma swarupasya aparijnanat jagat rupa dukkham tava pratibhati. I'll tell you what is the cause for this sorrow from the jagat. The cause for the sorrow from the jagat is not knowing the non-dual absolute self. Advitiya, non-dual, asanga, non-associated, chinmatra, of the nature of consciousness, the self. That not knowing that self, the self of that nature, the self of this nature is the problem, is the cause for all the problems. Tacha tava atma swarupa parijnanamatrat nivarte. And that can be gotten rid of only through the right knowledge of self. Right knowledge, complete knowledge of the self. Okay. Yadvastu yasya jnanad bhati tad vastu tasya jnanad nivartate. Because the rule is whatever object shines because of whichever object's ignorance can be removed only through that object's knowledge. You see a snake because of the ignorance of rope. That rope snake cannot be removed. That erroneous knowledge of snake cannot be removed without the knowledge of rope. Therefore, Rajva, so he is giving the example. Rajju ajnanat pratiyamana sarpah rajju revayyamiti rajju jnanamatrad yatha nivartate. Tatha atma jnanat pratiyamanam jagat api atma tattva sakshatkara matra nivartate. Like the erroneous knowledge of snake cannot be removed through any other means other than the right knowledge that this is snake. Similarly, the erroneous knowledge and the pain of samsara cannot be removed through any other means other than the right knowledge of the inherent nature of self. Now, tacha atma tattva jnanam upadishtapurumapi bhuyo anuvyakshyasami. And I have explained that already. Go study properly. No, he's not saying that. The Guru, he says, though I have explained you already the means for getting rid of this samsara, I am going to teach you again the same method in a different way. Bhuyo anupyakshasami. I am going to explain it again. Kalatrayapi mai jagat anumatramapi nasti mithyatvat swapnavati is giving you a soliloquy. The soliloquy is a Kalatrayapi in all the three periods. That is the place where you want to establish. What do you want to establish? The place where you want to establish is in all the three periods. What? Jagat Anumatrampi. Kalatrayapi Jagat. That is the place where you want to establish. What do you want to establish in that place? Anumatrampi Nasti. Even an iota of its existence is not there. In all the three periods, even an iota of existence for the Jagat is not there. Even a smallest of form, there is no possibility of its existence. Why? Reason. Mithyatva, because it is a illusory, erroneous, non-real. Like example, you shall have to give an example for a logic. He says, Swapnavata, like dream. So in all the three periods, there is no real existence for dream. Similarly, in all the three periods, there is no real existence for the samsara. Yad mithya tad adhishtanam na doshayat. Whatever is another real, another truth. Whatever is illusory does not taint even a bit the substratum. Whatever is illusory cannot taint the substratum any which way. The mirage water does not wet the floor, the desert floor. The snake does not poison the rope. The silver does not make the mother of pearl costly. It doesn't change anything in the substratum. The superimposition does not taint or change anything of the substratum. Therefore, nahi marichi udaka. He is explaining whatever I explained. Nahi marichi udakam ushara deshamadi garoti. The water, mirage water, does not wet the substratum. तथा similarly मयि प्रतीयमानमपि इदं जगत् मिथ्यात्वात् नमेकापि हानिं कर्तुं प्रभवति. Therefore, since this whole creation is a superimposition in me, cannot taint me or harm me in any which way. The water, the mirage water, does not harm or taint the substratum, the desert land. Similarly, this creation cannot taint me or harm me in any which way, because it is illusory. Aham Satchidananda Ananta Advitiya Asanga Brahma Swarupa Eva Asmi. I am that existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute, non-dual, unassociated Brahman. Iti evam nischayeva jnanam ityuchyate. This steadfast, this clarity is what is called as knowledge. Being established in this without any doubt is called as knowledge. Now, etadeva jnanam asuptehe amrutescha nirantaram abhyasyamanam moksha sadhanam. To practice this knowledge till you sleep, until you die, is what is the means for moksha. It is said in Panchadashi, Asupteramruter kalam nayed vedanta chintaya. Asuptehe amrutehe kalam nayed vedanta chintaya. Till you go to sleep, till you die, lead your life meditating on the Vedantic teaching, reflecting on the Vedantic teaching. Nanyat kinchitasti. There is no other means to get rid of this samsara. If you are in search of a person, you have to know the identity of the person. Instead of knowing the identity and going inquiring about him, if you are going to climb hills, climb the tree, jump into river, jump into ocean, take dip in river and ocean, whatever, that is not going to do any good. If you want to find that person, know his identity, his details, inquire. So that is what he says. There is no other way. That is what is the idea. Tadidam jnanam purvame upadishtavan asmi iti gururaha. So this knowledge I have already explained to you. That's what the Guru says. 168. Jnanameva ajnana nashakam na karma upasanadi. So he is making the idea clear that if you want to find the person, inquire. That is the only means, not doing anything else. In the parlance of Vedanta, only the knowledge is the means for liberation and not the karma, upasana, etc. In the karma, upasana are useless, then why do you ask us to do japa? And whenever there is a chance for japa, you keep repeating, do as much as japa as possible. Then why are you? If you know that it is useless, why are you teaching us to do that, instructing us to do that? So in Viveka Chudamani, Bhagavan Bhashyakara very clearly says, Chittasya shuddhaye karma natu vastu upalabdhaye na karma koti shatairapi. These are words of Bhagavan Bhashyakara. Even 1,100 crores of karma cannot be of any use to gain the truth. Then is the karma useless? Chittasya shuddhaye karma. The karma is for the purity of heart, purity of mind. Natu vastu uplabdhe, not to gain the truth. Just doing japa, suddenly you will get released. Don't have any kind of expectations like that. Nothing will happen. If something is happening, then there is an ant in your back. It's crawling slowly. So he says, Hey Soumya, Asya Jagata Upadana Karanam Ajnanam. Oh dear. The material cause for this creation is ignorance. Asya jnanasya nasham anu tat karyam sarvam drishyam jagat swayameva vinashyati. Once you get rid of this ignorance, anu, paschat, afterwards, once you get rid of the ignorance, following it immediately, its effect, the effect of ignorance. What is that? Drishya jatam, whatever you perceive, whatever you see, all that naturally is removed, destroyed. The cause is destroyed, immediately the effect cannot stay, because you are destroying the material cause. If the material cause is destroyed, the effect cannot stay. If you destroy the clay, there is no possibility of the pot to exist. If you destroy the thread, there is no possibility of the cloth to exist. Similarly, if you destroy the ignorance, there is no possibility absolutely of any way for the creation to exist. Upadana nashanantaram tat karyasya mitsiti ayoga. Same thing. After the destruction of material cause, the effect cannot have any existence. Tasya jnanasya nashastu jnanamatrena tata jayate. And getting rid of that ignorance, knowledge only can do that. Knowledge only can relieve you from this ignorance. Natu karma upasanadivihi sadhanantarahi, not karma, upasana, etc. Other means, other sadhanas, other spiritual practices. Yataha, because yataha jnanameva sakshad ajnana virodhi na karma upasana. Why are you saying the karma, upasana, etc. are not possible to get rid of this ignorance? Because direct enemy is knowledge. For ignorance, direct enemy is knowledge. For darkness, direct enemy is light, not the karma, upasana, etc. Yatha गृहांतर विद्यमानं तमः केनापि व्यापारेण अनिवर्त्यमपि केवल प्रकाशेन निवर्त्यते तथा अज्ञानरूपं निबिडं तमः ज्ञानात्मक प्रचंड प्रकाशेनैव निवर्तते न तु केनचित् अपि साधनान्तरेण. Same thing. So darkness which exists in the room cannot be removed through any kind of, you broom it, you hoover it, you dust it. Nothing can remove the darkness from the room except the light. Similarly, nothing can get rid of the ignorance in yourself except knowledge. Hey Soumya, so the bright light of knowledge only can remove the strong darkness of ignorance. Hey Soumya, oh dear, द्वैतरूपं जगत् यथा निशेषं निवर्तेत तथा अहं ते साधनं उपदिशन्. I have already explained to you the means for completely getting rid of the ignorance of duality. Okay? Tad etan manasi dharayan punaha punaha yuktivihi anuchintaya. So, whatever I explained, this through logic, again and again meditate, reflect upon it. Reflect upon it again and again using logic. Tatopi samshayo yadi syat yachecham prichhaiti kururaha. If you still have doubt, go to hell. No. He says, if you still have doubt, then you, whatever doubts you have, ask without any limit. You can ask any doubt. Syat yathecham. Yathecham means as you desire, as much as you desire, whatever be the doubts, ask me questions. I am going to explain to you. So now from here 169 to 225, he is going to ask doubts and the answers will be explained. We'll see. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.